Hi, everybody. You're going to start rolling and I can see your participants. Thank you, people, for attending. A lot of people rolling in. What I want you all to know, and I want my panelists to know and hear this first, we had more registrations for this webinar than any other webinar we've ever had, and we've had some really hot webinars. So kudos to you. This topic is really exciting for people. I think everybody's looking for a way to win and one that makes sense and one that's clear. So I think we're going to be able to give our listeners really actionable insights today. So let me give like 15 more seconds for people to roll in. And everyone who's rolling in, there's a chat feature, there's a question bubble. Feel free to input into those bubbles whenever you want. We will have time for questions in the end, and we'll be monitoring that. Okay, so let's do it. It's 12:01. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jodi Katz. I am the CEO and founder of Base Beauty, and we are here to present the Empathy Effect, which is a really exciting program we've been working on with Ad Age for like just about 6 months. So we're really happy that it just launched. Natasha, you can take us to the next slide where we will introduce everyone who's here, and we'll start with John and go in the order of the photo.
Well, thanks, Jodi. Has it really been 6 months? Oh my God. It's been such a pleasure working with you on this project, and it's really exciting to be discussing filing and releasing the white paper. If you haven't seen it yet, please download it and give it a read. But I'm the editor of Ad Age Studio 30, which is a custom content arm of Ad Age. I've been there for about 6 years. And before that, in a previous life, I ran a bunch of the biggest magazine brands around, such as Rolling Stone, Us Weekly, Glamour, Cosmopolitan. I was the first managing editor of MarthaStewartLiving.com, which is gave me a lot of great perspective on things. But throughout my entire experience, one of the things that I found was that when I first started working with beauty and wellness editors, that they quickly impressed me with their devotion to not just their subject matter, but to being journalists and to getting the truth out there and communicating with our readers and their readers. So I've always had a very big connection to the beauty and wellness space. So I'm really pleased to be here today.
Thanks, John. Alan?
Hey, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and I'm an executive coach and an emotional intelligence expert. I have a particular passion for the beauty space. I've worked inside of companies including L'Oreal and Coty, and most notably have worked in the beauty space with Jodi Katz, having been the agency's coach for over a decade. And all the work that I do is rooted in emotional intelligence. And excited about this conversation. We so often talk about creating a culture of emotional intelligence and empathy, looking at it from kind of an HR perspective. But today we're looking at in terms of client and customer satisfaction and service. So it's a very interesting and new lens and a different way to talk about empathy. So thank you.
Echo?
Hi, I'm Echo Sandburg. I'm the Chief Brand Officer for CP Skin Health Group. The CP is for Colgate Palmolive, and we have the brands Elta MD, PCA Skin, and Filorga. And I have the pleasure of working with Jodi and her team for the Elta MD brand for several years. Glad to be here.
And Jerry?
Cool. I'm Jerry Wu. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Grande Cosmetics. For those of you who don't know Grande, we are the #1 cosmetics brand for lash and brow enhancing serums. Prior to this, my background has been in luxury retail, department store space. I've done big box startups, Macy's and Bloomingdale's, across many verticals such as appliances, auto, and now I'm in the beauty space. So thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
Welcome to beauty. You're never going to leave.
Looking forward to it.
Let's go to the next slide, Natasha. You all can't see Natasha, but she's behind the scenes making sure this happens. So thank you to Natasha. Okay, so why are we here today? John mentioned we had this incredible collaboration to get the story out with Ad Age. And like he said, you can go to adage.com to download the report. And in today's session, we're focusing on data that we collected with a survey of brand decision makers at many notable brands and large organizations. And there's a lot of data in this deck. So just want you all to know, listening in, we'll send you the deck afterwards. You don't have to take screenshots of everything, but I do think there's actually a ton of stuff here that will help you move your work forward. So you'll get this as a PDF after the webinar, and you can use it to inform your own decision making. So we're going to really focus on the survey results because they're just so meaty and such great places to start. But I want to tell you why we even wanted to work on this project with Ad Age. We have a service model at Base Beauty that's centered on empathy with clients and, of course, then with their end user consumer. So we wanted to make sure that we actually are right. Like, we've had a hypothesis for 17 years. That's how long I've been doing this. For 17 years, we thought, there's better ways to help the client, help the consumer. Let's break down silos. Let's think more integrated. Let's be more resource efficient. So we wanted to actually get these confirmations. So we went out to Ad Age, who went out to 250 plus decision makers. And we now have the data to say, like, actually, we're all on the right track. So we're really proud of that. And empathy matters. So let's go to the next slide so that we can start talking about what the survey entailed. We had 257 respondents. These are all decision makers who have some involvement in, like, where creative and marketing services land. So these are the people who are actually, like, Echo's peers, Jerry's peers, and really influence decision making in their organization. And you can see the people that we surveyed work at very large companies. And this was very important for us to do because, there's very small entrepreneurial brands. And of course, they're making a lot of change happen in the industry, but we really wanted to get like more of a mass scale, like, statistically significant, like how big are these decisions being made and how much do they impact? So you'll see the average number of employees of a respondent is over 10,000. So very large global organizations. And interestingly, 34% of the respondents work on a brand that they think is a leader in their category. 27% work on challenger brands, and 19% on brands that we consider high growth mode. And that actually falls in line directly with the type of work that we do at Base Beauty. So we're actually talking to the people that we talk to every day in work through the survey, and we're excited to dig into those results. So let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about feelings. Professionals in the beauty wellness segment in the survey generally feel more positive about their work than the other categories surveyed. So I'm not surprised by that. We have an incredible category in beauty and personal care. But the truth is, they are frustrated, overwhelmed, feeling undervalued, overworked, and stressed. But we ask them, how do you want to feel, right? It's one thing to be in your today, but what are you looking for? And they want to feel empowered, valued, and fulfilled. So let's go to the next slide. The first question I have for our panelists are, tell me, how do you feel about your work? Echo, let's start with you today.
Yeah, I'm going to go with your emoji theme, Jodi, that you have. So if you think of the emoji with the star eyes, that would be it. So for me, it's excited. It's similar to what you saw in your survey. It's an amazing place to be in the beauty and wellness space. It's fulfilling what you can do to help people. That we had a conversation earlier about confidence, how we can help in bettering in skin health. So who doesn't want to do that? And don't get me wrong, I can feel as stressed or overworked as the next person. But really stepping back and thinking about having the privilege to work on amazing science-backed purposeful brands, overwhelmingly, I'm excited.
How about Alan? How are you feeling about your work?
I love my work. I have the best job in the world because I get to have impact at the highest level of organizations. And so if we're talking about emotional intelligence, to be able to arm leaders with the tools to develop emotional intelligence helps them withstand the outrageousness of the world in which we're living, this kind of rocky climate, and help them be better, do more, and in turn arm their staff with the same kinds of skills. So impact, for me, it's all about impact. And I never have interest, Jerry.
I'm sure. And how do you feel about your work?
Oh my God. So I love that slide because it's so emblematic of, I think, just everything that I feel on a not just a day-to-day basis, but an hourly basis. So it really does depend on when you ask me and what I happen to be doing at that particular moment, how I feel about my job. But my my most consistent answer to that question is I love my job, and that may not be a good thing to say when you go into an employee review or something when you're trying to get a raise from your boss. But to be absolutely truthful, I love what I'm doing. I'm at heart I'm a journalist, and I love reporting on what's going on, and especially in something that's happening in the advertising and marketing space, which is so tied into everything that's going on in the world, in business, in people's lives. So I understand the frustration. I do feel that on, like I said, almost an hourly basis, and stress and all that stuff. And it is hard work, but it's good work. And I'm proud to do it and very happy to do it.
Jerry, tell me how you feel about your work.
I actually resonated with what Alan said about impact. I think I feel personally like very engaged, very challenged because I get to make an impact, and work is challenging. And I think I'm by nature a problem solver, so I think that like that really keeps it. So there are good days and there are bad days, but because I get to solve problems, that really keeps me like happy and motivated. I work on a brand that we have a product with results, and we also have a very emotionally resonant product with our customer base. So my job is kind of cool in the sense that we are just finding new and creative ways that combine efficacy messaging with like emotionally resonant messaging, and to me like solving that problem is really engaging and good.
Well, I want to hear what our listeners, I want to see what our listeners are thinking. So please use the chat, use your emojis, go crazy. How about we frame it in how do you feel about your work today, right? As John said, it could be changed minute to minute. And while our listeners do that in the chat, Natasha, can you just go back to the previous slide so we can see some of the emojis? I want to tell you how I'm feeling. So yes, I feel empowered. Yes, I feel fulfilled, but I'm also leaving for a 2-week vacation on Monday. And I know you all know like the scramble to get stuff done the days before vacation. So I am like the stress and the overworked is and overwhelmed is really intense for me right now. Not enough hours in the day. And an epic trip coming my way with my 13-year-old daughter. So I'm like have crazy excitement and then also like looming deadlines. But I'm thrilled that we're all able to speak honestly and candidly about our feelings. What a cool industry that we're in that we can even do that. I'm sure there's a lot of industries where feelings play no role. So I'm really thrilled that we're here to talk about this. Okay, well, we'll put their input into the chat. Let's move on to slide 7. So I wanted to start off the survey results because I had a hypothesis 17 years ago. I was previously a creative director at a brand, so I knew what it was like to be on the brand side. So when I started this agency, I had this thought like, well, I should make the life of the client easier because I was the client long ago. And what I've noticed through 17 years is marketing teams get smaller, more is expected of them. The intensity is insane. The nuance is off the charts. So, I'm proud that I had this thought 17 years ago, but I wanted to really understand now, are the client decision makers seeing the same thing that I'm seeing when I talk to our clients? So interestingly, and these are really big numbers, so John, I'm going to ask for your input here. 84% of respondents either completely or somewhat agreed with, my company's marketing team is stretched too thin to keep up with all of our business goals and priorities. That's a big number. Remember, these are large corporations. 64% agree that their marketing teams often lack the expertise to transform data into strategic insights. And 2/3 of respondents agree that change occurs so frequently in the advertising ecosystem that it's difficult for a marketing team to keep up with them. So, John, what do you make of this?
Well, first of all, we're getting a lot of great comments in the chat, so thank you guys for weighing in on that. But to me, this is the heart of the research, right? So once we got past, or once we introduced the topic of, is empathy important to your brand, to your agency, and how does that relate to how you work together? It was, what does that all mean? right? So the first thing is that, we just got back from Canada. A lot of us just got back from Canada just a few weeks ago, and I literally have just finally adjusted to East Coast time. I'm no longer waking up 6 hours early, which is good because 2 o'clock in the morning is no time to wake up, or 1 o'clock in the morning. But these are like the common complaints. I mean, Canada's almost like, some people call it the biggest pity party in the world. Other people would think of it. I think of it as the largest, most expensive, most high-powered water cooler in the world for the advertising and marketing industry. But these are some of the conversations that were just going around. It's all about data. It's what is tech, how is tech and AI going to affect everything? But that's all reflected in the comments that we got, and these comments that we got from the survey, which is, the change is happening so quickly. How do you keep up with change? And once you get that idea that you need to get the data, everybody knows how important data is right now. We're living in the digital and the data age. The big stressor there is it the right data? With all the privacy regulations are coming into term, and people needing to find the right data solutions, finding the right partners for that. So there's a big stressor there. But then it's like, once you get the right data, how do you activate on it, right? And then, as the 84% of the people who responded in our survey said, once we even know what the data is, we know, and we think that we would want to be able to activate on that, our team is stretched too thin to do it. So what do we do? What are the possible solutions there? And then also that almost 2/3 said that their marketing team lacked the expertise to transform the data into strategic insights. So it really did illustrate how important it is to find the right partners, right? To really find the people that can help you activate on this stuff, to help you achieve your goals. And I think that one of the best parts of I'm really proud of the things that we covered in the white paper was that you did a lot of great partnerships with LTMD. So maybe Echo can kind of comment on that, with Grande Cosmetics, another one with Face Reality Skincare. Now, the Face Reality Skincare was like perfectly illustrated the empathetic approach, right? So it was really using the data that I think you put a survey out in the field, Jodi. You can talk a little bit about this. You found it was something like 56% really felt almost like a PTSD, like a really traumatic reaction to their acne. And well, what did you have to do to activate that? Maybe you can kind of weigh in. Can you just tell that story a little bit?
Sure. I mean, it was almost like a mirror to this program. Like, let's find out who the people that are, in the mix are feeling. And this is all tied to Acne Awareness Month, to really get the brand to elevate its storytelling, break through from the noise. And every piece of data that came back, the open-ended, especially, spoke about the emotional toll of acne. So, we had this hunch, of course, there's estheticians all over the country using these products on people with acne and hearing those stories of suffering. But to be able to package it up with data and be able to go out to the media, to influencers, and say, this is a fact, it's not just a feeling, that people are emotionally weighed down by this, and that our system, by partnering a client with an esthetician, it not only gives them the functional support, right, to actually fix the challenge, but the emotional support of being like, we're in this together. We're going to solve this together. Jeremy, the CEO of Face Reality, is on vacation, so he's not here. I'm sure he's going to listen to this and smile. But like, what a great place to be every day, where you're helping people who are suffering heal emotionally and solve their skincare issues. There's probably like no better place to work if you want to help people in mass. So let's move on to the next slide. I have a question here. We'll start with Alan, who's our emotional intelligence expert. How does empathy play a role in innovating your work? And you're working with executives all the time. So what are you seeing?
Sure. Well, I think that while human needs don't really change that much, we all have the same basic needs for safety, security, feeling valued, etc. I think in this moment in time, how those needs manifest is different. So innovation is in really listening deeply to where the struggles are for clients, and really always try, in terms of empathy, always trying to walk in their shoes. It's like, well, what would it be like to be juggling the demands of your job and childcare and and pets and a husband who was just laid off, and so just being able to deliver services, customized services to meet the needs of that client. Before COVID, pre-COVID, and the world that we're living in, I didn't really offer like a 24/7 hotline, crisis hotline, but I do now. It's rarely taken advantage of, but I want my clients to know that I am always there for them, because everyone's stress needs support to manage. So, hope I answered the question.
Thank you, Alan. So Echo, we've worked together for so many years. I'm thinking about when we first started working together, it was like the Stone Age compared to where we're at right now in digital marketing. But you always saw the digital world as an empathetic world. So how does empathy play a role in innovating your work today?
I think empathy is huge in terms of innovation, and actually, before answering that, I just the last conversation that you're having, I answered that I'm excited about the opportunities and the possibilities that we have, especially in the space that we're in. I also appreciate a huge challenge that we have as marketing leaders is trying to make it manageable for our teams, and exactly what you were just saying. We talk about collaboration drag is real because marketing can be at the heart and the center of the organization. So it's really important to help your team prioritize and create space, so you can get to things like innovation. And I completely agree with Alan what you were saying. To me, the best innovation is helping to address unmet needs, looking at opportunities that are real challenges and pain points that people face, and if you can help solve that and play a role in that, which requires empathy, you're going to have a greater chance of success with your innovation.
And Jerry, your brand was founded because the founder had an experience that she wanted to solve for. I mean, there's probably no much more, you can't get more empathetic than like, I have a problem, I'm feeling it, I'm going to take action. So I would imagine these are conversations you have internally quite a bit. How is it showing up for you?
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know, our founder, Alicia Grande, made the product, our hero product, Lash MD, because her lashes started falling out after she had a child. But to sort of tie this into the question, it's that isn't everyone's experience, and that's not everyone's emotional concern. Our core customer base is so broad, and we were having this conversation before the webinar, is I have 18-year-old customers, I have 20-year-old customers, 30, 40. Everyone has different emotional needs and desires when it comes to what they want to achieve with their lashes and brows. And so we can't just take that product and we can't say like it works and we have studies to prove it. Believe us. No one is going to believe you if you're like, trust me. So it really has to come down to understanding all the emotional resonance of the different parts of our customer base, understanding multi-generational differences, motivations, concerns. That allows us to create campaigns and messaging that really are impactful and drives revenue.
Thank you all. Let's move to the next slide. I'm smiling on this one because I'm going to ask Alan a really funny question, insightful question. But we asked these survey respondents, what are critically important factors in selecting or maintaining an agency? 76% of the respondents said responsiveness. Okay, so this to me is amazing and alarming, right? That the desire is so strong that they're not getting responded to, right? That's what I'm interpreting. Like, just please come to my table and pour me a glass of water. I've been sitting here for 5 minutes, right? That would be how you feel in a restaurant. So it's such a high percentage, and we gave them a lot of choices. They were like, really insightful, creative, things they could have chosen, but they chose responsiveness as a top factor. So, Alan, I'm wondering, is from an EQ perspective, is it sort of like a cry for help from clients?
I think so. It's certainly it's a loud request. I believe that we, on a world level, are experiencing something of a crisis in empathy. I think that when people are under stress, their empathy goes out the window. And I think agencies are stressed. I think people in client service are stressed, but we don't have the luxury of leaning into our own stress response. We need to take care of our clients' and customers' needs. And so, yes, I think the request is loud and clear to me that we need to put aside our own emotional needs sometimes to really care for clients and customers in a profound way. And so, I usually say, like empathy, you can't be like selectively empathetic. But I think we have to sometimes prioritize where we're going to place our empathy. And so our clients and customers are paying our bills. So I do think sometimes there is a need to focus more on our own productivity and extending the empathy to the clients, and understanding that what they're asking for sometimes, the way they ask for it may not always come across as kind, but like we need to put ourselves in their shoes to consider what it is that their lives are looking like, and serve them as best that we can.
I think that speaks to the second response, that was a top response, working with us as genuine partners that share our needs and concerns. There have been a ton of times through the years where, a client had a difficult situation and presented that difficult situation to my team in a difficult way. We'll just say it nicely that way. And what I say back to my team is like, think about that person's leadership team. Think about who might actually literally be yelling at them. Like, you don't know what happens in some of these organizations. The cultures might not be like our culture. There could be literally somebody standing, pointing fingers, throwing emotional, a lot of expression around. So let's just go into that person's shoes right now. And if you were with them in the room, like, how could we help them navigate this? How can we get them that information, how they need, packaged up in a way where they can, exit this very difficult situation satisfactorily because they got from us what they need.
Right.
So we talk a lot about that in the relationship, right? It's almost like the people who they stole my parking spot in the parking lot. Well, maybe that person really needed that spot in that moment, right? Maybe like they ran out of baby formula, they ran out of diapers, like running into the food store, in a panic because there's like a real true need. So I
So
thought
if I could just add, Jodi,
yeah,
just so connected to empathy is both listening between the lines
Mhm.
of what people are asking for, so deeper listening, but also flexibility. And the more rigid we are, the more we are attached to, yes, we have scopes of work, we have all of those things, but can we also be human and work with the client to give them what they need, understanding that they are dealing with some pretty big emotions, and it may not always come out in the way that's intended.
Let's move on to the next slide. This is more data. We asked for the top 3 attributes that characterize your ideal agency partner, and you're just going to see so much empathy language here. The first, with staff who can directly relate to the experience of my customers, right? So I hear that as being in my customer's shoes. Number 2, with staff whose experiences directly align with those of myself and my team. Have I colored my hair? Well, then it's a lot easier for me to be empathetic with someone who is coloring their hair if I'm working on a hair color brand. And 3, caring deeply about how our customers feel when they're making purchase decisions. I mean, this is just, makes my heart, be so happy that this is the way that these brand decision makers are thinking. They really want that intimacy with their customer to be front and center in all of the work, which makes me very happy and makes the work harder. So let's go to the next slide. This data is telling us that, well, I'll say I'm really proud of myself 17 years ago for deciding this is how I wanted to organize my agency, because we only work on beauty, wellness, and personal care. So we are experts in the industry that we service. And I'm really glad that I did, because 44% of respondents want that from their agencies, and 38% want their agencies to do a better job of stepping into their customers' shoes. So this quote from the open-ended responses: "My ideal creative media agency is immersed in our business and looks at our business challenges from the customer's perspective." So, John, let's hang here for a minute. Earlier we saw that one of the top responses for what they want in an agency is responsiveness. Now we're seeing a desire for expertise in the industry. And you're obviously researching the client agency relationship all the time. What does this mean to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, so next week, actually, you talk about stress. You're going on vacation. I'm prepping for our Ad Age a Small Agency conference, which is actually the most fun and probably every ad ager's favorite conference that we do year to year, because you really get to be on the ground with all the agencies. It's a great community, the small agency community in advertising. And it's a fun event, but you really do, there's workshops and panels, but you really do get to just meet with them and hang with them and really, again, like that great water cooler feeling, the water cooler effect. And these are some of the things that, these data points are a lot of pain points that data-driven people just start talking about. So it's really interesting to hear where they're getting the stress from it and what the agencies are looking for. And going back to the previous slide where you talked about responsiveness and understanding the consumers or the customers, is that the thing that really stuck out to me about that point was that the respondents considered them to be the same thing. An agency's attention to the client is exactly the same thing as understanding who and empathizing with who their customer base is. So it's all, to me, what all these numbers mean is that it's all tied together, that the agency's relationship, and this is some of the things that I hear from various, players in the industry. Another thing that I do at Ad Age, another one of my favorite projects, is that I oversee a group called The List, it's a group of CMOs and senior marketing leaders. This is the 6th year that we've had it, and it really has given me a lot of great perspective, because the pool of most of the invitees to the list come from Ad Age's award, like 40 leading women, creativity and A-list awards. So it goes across the entire ecosystem of advertising and marketing. So it's not just agency people, not just brand people, not just ad tech people, but it's the entire gamut of everyone. And working with them and being in a room with them, sometimes a virtual room like this one, and just having chats every month to kind of find out, what are the biggest challenges that you're feeling, has really kind of informed the way that both I approach my job, but also give me a bigger understanding how much empathy really does play into those relationships. And it really is the difference maker, I feel. Especially, we're going to talk a little bit about this in a little bit, but in this great age of technology and AI coming in, it really, I think, will be the difference maker, is those personal relationships and understanding the personality and the humanity of the audience.
Great. Well, let's move to the next slide. This question, I'm going to pass it to Jerry first. And this is an important question, because the people who sign up to watch this webinar need these answers. They're hungry for it. They're begging for it. So what does it really take in your work every day to really connect with your customer?
I really feel like you put a lot of pressure on me. They want the answer. Actually, I liked this question a lot. I talk about two things every day that I come into the office. One is, what are our customer pain points every day? What are their pain points? What are they looking for? What are they missing? And that is the crux of every problem that we're trying to solve from a communications, advertising, marketing perspective. And then the other thing I talk about is, in relation to the pain points, is what are our intentions to resolve those pain points. So whether that's through copy, or whether that's through visuals, or whether that's through campaigns, partnerships, 360 activations, if we are able to properly identify the pain points, and as I've talked previously, of the unique group subset that we're dealing with, and we're able to have a very intentional message or intentional action toward that pain point, then that I would consider that a good connection with the customer.
Love that. So Echo, what's required today in your skincare brands to connect intimately with your customer?
Yeah, so the brands that we work on, we're professional skincare brands. So maybe I'll talk a little bit about EltaMD. EltaMD is the #1 professional recommended, trusted, and personally used sunscreen brand by dermatologists. And the personally used, we're really proud of. And so you can imagine, our brands have been built based off of clinical evidence. They work. There's efficacy that gives the reason to believe. But similar to what Jerry's saying, and it can't just be that. We really have to think about the outcomes and showing how our products improve lives. They're wearable. One reason why people aren't wearing sunscreen, skin cancer can be prevented, but you don't want to see the sunscreen on your face. So we make very wearable sunscreens you're not going to see, and it can help improve skin condition. So showing the outcome, showing how products can improve people's lives, and bringing empathy to our efforts, that gives that human element that really helps to level up what we're doing and help people know that this is a brand for someone like them, which is critically important.
I love everything you both said, and I summarize it, and it's it doesn't roll off the tongue, but I think it's meaningful. We think the question that we're trying to answer every day for the customer is, why do I care? Right? Because they want to care, but like there's just a lot of noise, a lot of messages. And by the way, this world is confusing. Ingredients, technology, everything is always changing. So if we can really just like break it down to like, why does this customer, this target care about this thing? Then I think we're answering these questions about their pain points and the resolution and, making their life easier and better and healthier. Alan, you actually literally wrote a book about connection, the power of connection. So, let's talk about what you've observed in the past few years in your executive coaching on this topic.
Yeah, well, so I don't even think the two things I'm about to share are in either of my books. So I guess this is the updated edition. But I think asking for feedback constantly, even when we're afraid of what we may hear, I think is really important to drive connection. I think that's important to receive it and to receive it undefensively. And then I think service recovery. I think when we screw up, what do we do to address that, and how do we really, and some of our happiest clients and customers will be people who had a bad experience and who we work to recover service with. Other things that were in the books, I think authenticity, our own vulnerability, to admit when we're wrong, and storytelling. I think our own storytelling is a means of connection, and certainly listening and listening more. I just can't say anything more that's more important than listening, but really listening without our own agenda, blocking the information that's coming in.
Right. Listening without an agenda. I mean, we all have friends who have said things about so and so and so and so. And when we present an alternative way to think about it, they don't want to hear it. Right. So they have an agenda. Right. So really being open.
Right. Well, and also I think not, yes, we want to solve the problem, but sometimes we don't need to solve the problem right there in the moment. It's really about acknowledging and validating what we're hearing, just to use that corny expression, just to hold space for that person so that they do feel seen. And sometimes they'll untangle the mess themselves, but they just need somebody there to be supportive and care.
That's a great note. We've actually been on the front lines of so many community management situations where, somebody has a complaint or a concern, and just this sort of holding space, like hearing them, giving them the room to, keep saying what they need to say, not challenging them, not fixing it right away, has been incredible. And these, some of the clients we worked on are like in real crisis. Maybe they're having recalls and things like that, so there's, quite a bit of gravitas to the messages, but just, like you said, listening and pausing often works really powerfully.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the next slide. This is a confirmation of everything that you all said, right? We asked the survey respondents to tell us the two types of messaging that create the deepest long-term connections to their end user. So this is their number one response: demonstrates that your product services truly understand the customer's needs. So this is what Echo said. This is what Jerry said. everyone's aligned, which makes me very happy. We really just have to be so customer first. And I think empathy is just another way to say customer centric, right? I think we probably all have been in organizations where the marketing teams are so like brand centric, like their brand, their packaging, their signage, their campaign, and they're forgetting that there's human beings on the other side of this, that it's easy to go, like, I guess, very ego driven about it, like advancing my career, advancing my business within the organization, and forget that there's a customer. So I'm glad to see that the respondents picked this as their number one choice. Let's move to the next slide. Here's a question. We'll start with Echo. Once again, Echo, like I told Jerry, people are listening. They want these ideas, so help them out. What's an empathetic insight that you had internally that led to a breakthrough idea?
Yeah, with this question, something from this year actually comes to mind, and it's a B2B example regarding dermatologists. So these professionals go through so much training and dedication and rigor to do what they do every day. Often, giving their time and care to their patients. And in today's world and climate, with Google, social media, influencers, there's so many sources of information or misinformation. And derms, as the thought leaders in skin health, has come a bit under fire. So that was really the empathetic insight that the team identified. And the breakthrough idea here was to create the first ever a National Dermatologist Day. And we really wanted to do this to recognize and celebrate their impact on overall skin health. And so it was for the profession, and then helping patients and people understand that the importance of why you need to consult a derm annually to get your skin checked, how they can really support your other skin health needs. And I remember clearly, we did this because we wanted to lift up the profession. And I remember one of our dermatologists, we couldn't believe the reaction that we got from some of the associations that we brought this idea to, and some of the individuals. And her quote was, "We've loved you for protecting our skin, and we love you even more for protecting our profession." And so really thinking about insights, and again, it can be a B2B example, to really bring empathy to drive a solution.
I love that. Jerry, share an example from your team.
Sure. Mine sort of was a simple perspective shift, and kind of jumping off of Jodi, what you said before about like brands sometimes putting themselves first in terms of like what they want to message. And we were trying to come up with new copy for our product, and we looked at all of a large majority of our reviews. And if you looked at those reviews, they would say, it works. This is a product that works. But as I've said before, no one is going to believe copy that says, trust me, we work, right? So we decided to send out a survey to thousands of past purchasers of our product. And we really wanted to get into how they felt before and after using our products. And those were all emotional feelings. There was more confidence, more feeling empowered, more secure, and they felt like it was products and a brand that was beauty without concealing any natural features. So we just shifted that copy and shifted visuals to really emphasize that feeling of confidence in your own natural self, and that's how we've been carrying it through for the last couple months.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's move to the next slide. Shifting gears a little bit, what do clients want? The respondents say 95% expertise in data analysis is important. The quote from the open-ended questions, looking for someone who is an extension of our team and can be a strategic partner, not someone who just delivers data. So this is really important, right? We're Base Beauty is a data-driven creativity organization. So we can't just like throw a bunch of numbers and charts in front of our clients and expect that they're going to be able to do anything with it, right? We have to, as a leadership team, dive in and tell stories and look at it very holistically. It's super important for us to be able to help our clients that way. So you can see that the research participants felt the same way. John, I want to talk about this because you can see in the little note underneath, mastery of AI only got a 10% response as important. And proprietary data, only 15%. So, we're a tech-enabled organization. We use a lot of robust tools. I'm curious to see what you think the role of AI would change in terms of this data analysis and what the needs are of these clients.
Well, whenever I talk about AI, I feel like I'm filling out my bingo card because it's always something that pops up in every conversation I have. It's almost a must. So bingo, I win. This really leapt out at me because it was really interesting, just given how much, with that comment, AI is dominating the conversation in the industry right now, but that the numbers seem to be so comparatively low. So I thought, well, why don't we just look and find out where actually is the beauty industry in general regarding AI? And according to a Euromonitor report of over 1,200 beauty industry companies, professionals, sorry, across 97 countries, so a very big survey, revealed that 36% plan to use AI for customer service, 34% for logistics, 42% will use generative AI for smarter, more personalized shopping suggestions in the next 12 months. So those numbers are only going to grow, right? So as the technology advances, as it gets adopted by more and more brands, those numbers are going to grow. So it is extremely important to not just be in touch with your data and the other ad tech that exists, but be up to date and have partners that actually know about AI and can kind of bring you up to speed. It doesn't mean hiring an AI expert for your team. We're all kind of stretched, right, in our budgets. But it means doing some research and knowing, what you need that new technology to do. And that's typically when I talk to AI experts, I say, what is the first piece of advice that you give, potential new clients? It says, just take a step back. Obviously everybody's talking about AI, but really think about what can it do to help you? What are you looking for it to, what needs do you have for that it could fill? And then that's how you can, what to say in that first meeting with a potential partner.
Let's dig into this a little bit more, John. So, we use AI a lot in the concepting process now for creative to help. It's almost like more advanced swipe, right? Like we can tell the story that we want to tell, even though if it's a little quirky or wonky, or they have 6 fingers or whatever in the model image, it's still enough to be able to communicate. Helps with storyboards and things like that. Helps with retouching, making things that would take hours take 10 minutes. But I want to go back to the topic of empathy and how empathy and AI intersect, right? So AI is not a human. The customer will never be a robot, right? So what role does how do empathy and AI, I guess, intersect in your mind?
Well, I think there's a very brilliant quote from somebody who's in a white paper said, "There's no denying the power of this technology. Machines are not and cannot be empathetic." And I think I referenced it before, that humanity, the empathy and the humanity is the difference maker. There has to be somebody who's looking at that data, who's considering the data. So think about the way that, I think we've all probably started to use generative AI in our day-to-day jobs just to kind of get rid of all the different drudgery work that we do. Would you ever trust that whatever it produces and just send it to a client? Never in a million years, right? Because it's not there. And the reason why it doesn't produce, you need that human touch, you need that empathetic touch, is that's what you bring. That's what we all bring to this. It's the humanity. And like you said, there is no empathy. The technology does not have empathy. It has data, it has logic, it has all of the things that could help us, like a great calculator, like a great tool, but it doesn't have that human touch. And I think that, like I said before, that's the difference maker.
Jodi, can I add to that?
Yeah, but you get 20 seconds.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, well, it can't read emotion. It can't sit across the table and tell you what your, identify the feelings of the person, the customer, the client, whomever. So it's very one-dimensional, based on just words and input.
Yeah. Let's move to the next slide. This question is actually replicated in many of the questions that have been rolling in today. So pressure's back on. Jerry, we'll start with you. So for the actionable takeaways that our viewers can, take notes on right now, I think this is really the most important. Like, how can you prove it? Like, how can you use data to demonstrate that strategies rooted in empathy actually lead to success? So that's like, what are the measurables? What would you be studying?
I mean, I look at all commentary in the aggregate. So the example that I gave about like analyzing reviews, that's data. So we have, just taking an example, we have 50,000 reviews on Amazon. I can aggregate feelings. I can just pull in, and the talk about AI. AI can also be analytical. You can just pull in most commonly used words, and those could be feeling words, and then we basically then map those out into our intention, like the pain points and intentions that I was talking about before. So we can directly tie feelings and emotions with numbers and use that to succeed from a messaging and campaign design standpoint.
Echo, what about you? How would you measure this, the impact of empathy?
Yeah, I actually would take it just a little bit of a different direction and kind of bring it back to people. And, we started the conversation today talking about the stress or overworked, and clearly we all have to deliver business results. And companies can make the mistake that it's a trade off between efficiency and empathy. And there's tons of data out there that shows how if you have empathetic leadership, you get more engagement, you get more innovative work from the team overall. And so I think that's something that's really critically important to think about, is showing empathetic leadership. That's going to get you stronger results. That's going to give you happier employees, which again continue the objectives that you have overall.
Great. Let's move to the next slide. We are nearing the end of our hour, so I'm going to keep us moving. I mentioned at the start of the hour that I started this business 17 years ago, and I was the creative director of a French beauty company before this. And I, used that experience informed how I run this business today. So I was really curious to know, for people in those decision-making seats, how many agencies are they working with? What are they getting out of it? And I thought this was super fascinating to see the data. 76% of the respondents retain 2 or more, but within that, 23% have 6 or more agencies. So that's 6 different teams to have, you have to share your voice with, prioritize with, and 14% had 11 or more. And within that segment, so people who are working with many agencies, 83% do not feel supported by all their agencies, and only 12% completely agree that they have great partnerships with all their agencies. And another pain point, 63% agree that it's challenging to interpret all the success metrics and KPIs our company receives from all its agencies. So this is really hard. Like, these are very, very hard jobs that, just keep getting harder and harder and harder. And that's reflected in this open-ended response. Keeping agencies up to date with differing team priorities and changing brand standards to the point where they can be more helpful and hindersome in the work. I thought that was fascinating. They use the word hindersome, right? Like, agencies are more of a pain in the butt to this respondent sometimes than helpful, right? So that's like going to the hygienist to get my teeth cleaned and they're making it worse, right? That's a really terrible situation to be in. So I am just always, and my team is so empathetic with, like, wow, like, Echo and Dre, you have hard jobs and your teams have hard jobs, and you're trying to translate these hard jobs, these important measurables, to people above you who are making decisions about the business, and they have hard jobs too, right? Everybody is really taxed. And, that's why this topic of empathy and all the ways that we're talking about infusing empathy into the work in terms of like understanding the client's need, understanding how to communicate, understanding that end user's point of view, and really allowing the feelings to drive some of that instead of, oh, my product is 23% more whitening or whatever it is. Because with AI, with the noise, with kind of the state of the world, we need more empathy. Let's go to the next slide. So I thought this was interesting too. We put a fantasy out into the survey. So we asked respondents to imagine a world without any agencies, zero agencies. All of the services that they typically would hire agencies for would no longer exist, and they'd have to be brought in-house. And we really wanted to understand in this fantasy scenario, like if they needed to replace those agency humans with humans in their own team, how many people would it take? And we're just trying to really understand, like, do people even like believe that the agencies matter, right? So if all the respondents said, 2 people, like they would be like, oh, agencies, they just don't matter anymore. They're not giving any value. But you'll see like more than half of the respondents, like many, many, many headcounts would need to be created internally to replace these people. So that to me is good news. Like there is like a need and a reliance. We just need that need and reliance to be where they're truly supporting the client's needs, really understanding their customer, responsive, filling that water glass, being responsive, and understanding the feelings of the end user. So I'm going to just switch gears. We only have a few minutes left. So of course I want everybody on the call to also know, what I built here and why we actually do this work every day. So we can go to the next slide, Natasha, and the next one. I had a hypothesis 17 years ago. I'm glad I stuck to it because we just proved it out. It was so important for us to be category experts. I say this all the time. I'm sure Echo's heard this a million times. We don't work on automotive. We don't work on fast food. Like it's not what we do. We don't know it. So we're just going to stick with what we know. We're experts in beauty, wellness, and personal care. This is our happy place. And it sounds like that's what clients are asking for, like people who are true experts. Number two, and we all have to do this all the time. We have to be innovating, like leveling up. Like it doesn't stop. I wish it would. I wish we could all press pause and be like, let's just know what we know right now and just like stay here for 2 months. But it's just not possible. We always have to keep innovating, learning. I think one of the funniest and coolest features about where we are in marketing right now is, when I started my career 20 something years ago, like there were rules and this was the way you did things. And that's it. And the toolbox is really only open to the most gigantic corporations who can afford the toolbox. Now, nobody really knows what's going on. We have instincts, we have data, we have past performance, but no one knows what the future holds. And like this chance to just take an insight, build empathy into it, and test and learn, test and learn, test and learn. That's where the fun is. And that's where we see the most successful companies creating that momentum. They're not afraid to try things. So we all have to be always leveling up. Breaking down silos, creating holistic analysis. Like I couldn't even imagine turning to a client right now and be like, here's siloed analysis, go. What do they do with it? Like, it's not fair anymore. And we're also very values driven. Empathy is one of our values. It's literally on the wall in the office. We talk about it a lot, but we also operate with kindness and respect. And this plays a role, like I said, when we're in situations where clients are in tough spots with team members who maybe don't operate with kindness and respect, right? For us to take a step back and try to re-gauge how to present information to them so they can navigate a situation that's culturally very challenging. Let's go to the next slide. I mentioned, breaking down silos. It's so important that we look at the work holistically. Really just having blinders on is not helpful for anyone. So I'd say anyone in their early stages of their career who's listening in right now, you don't have to be a subject matter expert in everything, but you really need to know how everything intersects. So we talk about our team as like a high performance soccer team. We have plays. Everyone has their roles on the field. They're experts in those roles on the field, but they need to know when the ball's coming, right? They need to understand where the cross section of these areas are and how they can be responsive to each other. So that's super essential. And we'll go to the next slide. Being tech enabled is super important. This is just a short list of, our Y fell down, a short list of some of the tech enabled tools we use. We can't do this just as human beings. It would not be accurate. It would take too long. We actually wouldn't be able to access what we need. So, I encourage any of those tech players who are listening in, like keep refining. How amazing would it be if one tool could do it all? That would be great. We haven't found it yet, but we're open to hearing about it. So reach out. And then last thing I want to say just about Base Beauty is we've been certified for many years. and we have a curated team of experts. And what we're most proud of is very long-term partnerships. So I think Echo and I worked together for like 5 years. We have a high staff to client ratio. We're very proud of those relationships and industry recognition. And I just want to say on the last slide, thank you to everyone who participated today. My panelists are genius. I know that our guests are leaving knowing more, and they were actually taking notes, Jerry and Echo, on what you said, and they're bringing that back to their leadership and teaching that to their team, because this is just such an important topic. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening, and everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.